My jealous mother-in-law tried to poison me after I announced my pregnancy, but she ended up poisoning her own husband instead. Now she is begging us to drop all charges and for her husband to take her back. Part 2. This year, she decided to get married and invited everyone except us. Harry was shocked to find out that we were not invited since our relationship seemed to be better. When we questioned her about it, she started to say how she could not allow me to come since I might do something to upstage her wedding. I did call and ask her why she would think something like that when I have never done anything to her. Kayla started to say how she had knowingly dressed up in all black to our wedding, so now she was afraid that I might do the same, and this is why she didn't want me in our wedding. I was furious about how manipulative she was and straight up told my husband about this. Harry talked with his grandparents, and they decided to tell Mill that they would neither pay for the wedding nor would they be attending. This reduced Mill to tears, and she started to blame me for creating this fiasco. My husband informed her that she had shamelessly admitted her own mistakes, so she had no right to be pointing fingers at me, but Kayla justified her actions saying that our wedding happened a long time ago and that I should just get over it. Later, since Phil and Mill were still refusing to pay for her wedding, she reached out to apologize to me and beg me for forgiveness. I hate to admit this, but Kayla can be very sweet and persuasive when she wants something. I forgave her and wanted to just move on from the past. Her wedding with Jamie went well. We all attended and had a good time. Not even 6 months later, Kayla was at our doorstep complaining about how her marriage was falling apart. Harry and I let her stay with us for a few days where she would vent for hours on end about her husband. They seemed to be having issues with getting pregnant, and Kayla was clearly blaming Jamie for everything. I tried to talk to Kayla, but she was adamant that it was all her husband's fault. When she was not complaining about her husband, she would be hyper-focused on our lives and try to make up things that didn't exist. For example, I generally go to the gym every morning before going to work. Sometimes when I am running late, I take my work clothes so I can finish my workout, take a bath, and change into my work attire. She'll notice this for some time and would ask me a lot of questions about it, like why was I taking a bath or why I even needed to go to the gym. I didn't think much about it and would tell her how I like maintaining my weight and how I didn't like going to the office all sweaty. She would purse her lips and nod. Eventually, things got okay with Jamie, and she went back to living with him. On a weekend, my husband and I went to have lunch with Mill and Phil. Mill and Jamie had also been invited. We left our son, Nate, with a babysitter since he usually got bored when us grown-ups would talk for long hours, and wanted to stay at home and play. Mill was telling us about how one of her friends is currently divorced. She was telling us about how her friend's husband cheated on her, so she left him and took half of his assets. Still suddenly interrupted her to ask my husband if he and I had signed a prenup before we got married. We stopped eating to look at her. She acted like I wasn't even there and looked at my husband expectantly. Now my husband is not someone who minces his words, so he told her straight up that since he and I both earned quite well, we saw no reason to get a prenup. Mill snorted and started to say how nowadays there are a lot of cheaters around us and that he could be blindsided any day. I took offense to her words and asked her to tell us what exactly she was insinuating. Mill then started to say how I was definitely meeting up with someone since I was always carrying a change of clothes everywhere and that is Harry's mother. It was her duty to warn her son. I was shocked to hear these words. Phil and Mill immediately came to the rescue and went off on her to stop making up such things and that she should not meddle her nose into others' business. Mill, without missing a beat, went on to say how she was only trying to be there for her son and started to joke if our son, Nate, was really Harry's son since he didn't exactly look like him. I swear I watched my husband's face go red in anger. I have never seen him this angry in my life. He looked her mother straight in the eye and told her that this was why my father left you yet since he didn't deserve to with you. Mill and Phil just stared quietly as my husband went off on Kayla about how she was a shameless person who tried to ruin everything because she had nothing good going on in her life and how she was just a loser married who did nothing the whole day when husband worked hard the whole day. He continued to say instead of pointing fingers at me and asking us about prenups, she should worry about her own marriage since she was clearly projecting. Kayla was reduced to tears and started bawling. She looked at Jamie who was sitting right next to her to support her, but he never uttered a word. I have never seen my husband lose his mind this way. In the end, she got up from her chair to run into the washroom. My husband was fuming. Mill came over to calm my husband down as I rubbed his hand. He told me how sorry he was for what his mother told me about our son, and I nodded because I understood just how frustrating she could be. I was kind of glad my husband stood up for me so publicly since I had taken enough crap from Kayla over the years. After he calmed down, he apologized to Jamie, but ignored Kayla completely. After lunch that day, we went back to no contact with Kayla. Her behavior was not only affecting me, but it was also affecting my husband. We just blocked her from everywhere so she could not reach out to us. Mill and Phil did talk to us about the lunch and agreed that Kayla had gone too far this time. They could see how their usually calm son had gone unhinged after Kayla had kept pushing him. It has been a year now since we have talked with her. Everything has been going smoothly. 2 months ago, I found out that I was pregnant. This is a complete surprise since we were not even trying. My husband and I feel blessed to welcome another family member. We were waiting for the right time to inform everyone and decided to reveal it on my husband's birthday. Mill and Phil wanted to celebrate Harry, so they were having a big bash for him in their backyard. Our close family and friends had been invited. Mill must have heard about this from others and decided to show her face.